Morning, welcome back to King Abdulaziz Racecourse here in Riyadh, ahead of the fourth running of the Saudi Cup on Saturday. The main supporting event, we could say that's the Red Sea Turf Handicap, in which the Gold Cup winner, Subjectivist, is going to make his return. Charlie Johnston is now the trainer of Subjectivist. I should say, welcome back to Riyadh, Charlie.
Yeah, great to be back. We've had a runner in every renewal of the Red Sea Turf in the 4 years that it's been going. And well, this is certainly the best horse we've brought out for it. So hoping for a better result than we've had so far.
We've not seen him since a striking win in the Gold Cup at Royal Ascot. Just talk us through the intervening 600 plus days.
Yeah, sadly, about 2 weeks after the Gold Cup of 2021, he was found to have a tendon injury in his right fore. A hammer blow. Horses like him are very hard to find, and he just put in a career best performance in Ascot, and we were dreaming of what the next couple of years were going to involve in places like this. So he then had 9 months of intensive water therapy, swimming, water walker. He then spent all of last summer out at grass, and he came back in at the start of September, and it's been a 6-month process to get him ready for this.
How close to retirement did he come during that sort of initial period?
Yeah, there were offers on the table for him to be a stallion, not big enough offers to tempt us to retire him, or to tempt Dr. Jim to retire him. If there'd been a bigger offer on the table, it probably would have been the end at that stage. So yeah, thankful that we're back at this point.
And so disappointing for that to happen, as you say, at that time, because he ended his campaign with that big win over in France, and what he did out in Dubai was deeply impressive. He watched that race back, and he's coming out the back stretch with most of the field behind, broken. Yeah,
it was a race where 4 furlongs from home, the result was settled. And to be honest, I had much the same feeling for most of the way around at Ascot as well. That when I saw sort of the ground at Stradivarius and the obvious dangers were giving him, you can't afford to give this horse that kind of ground. He won't let you back into the race. So yeah, we were in that very fortunate position at that stage where it was a case of just picking which races you wanted to win, and we had a sort of campaign mapped out for the next 2 years of where we would be going, and we were brought back down to earth with a big bump.
And did you go into Royal Ascot with that degree of confidence, with what you'd seen in Dubai and what you knew his ability was?
From what I had seen at home and what we had seen on the track, as I say, we were in a stage where we weren't worried about the opposition anymore. It was purely, could we have the horse there in the best shape we could? And going into Dubai and Ascot, I couldn't see any other result than him winning, and that's a very, very unique position to be in at that level. It doesn't happen very often, and hence it was such a huge blow for us to then lose him.
And with what you know of the horse and what you know of his ability and how he trains, what's the feeling coming into the Red Sea at the weekend?
It's a feeling of the unknown, really. We wouldn't be here if we didn't feel we could be competitive. Can I have that same confidence that I had 2 years ago? No. This horse is coming back from a serious tendon injury, a tendon injury that in a lot of cases is career ending. It's not like a bony injury that will have repaired to 100% of what it was before. Tendons are never quite the same again, and we've done 6 months of conditioning work to get this horse here. He's had a very serious racecourse gallop at Newcastle 2 weeks ago. We feel we've done everything we can within reason to have the horse here in the best shape possible, but the proof of the pudding will be in the eating on Saturday.
And what have you made of his condition here and the way he's been moving on the track?
He seems, if anything, too full of himself. He looks a bit like a horse that hasn't seen much of a racetrack for 2 years. Although, to be honest, I was watching them go around the last 2 mornings. I was more concerned about Joe Fanning's shoulder than I was about the horse's legs. So, because an added part to the story, the jockey's making a comeback as well as the horse. So it's been a long road back for both of them.
We'll just touch on Joe very quickly. He's been off since last summer. He's yet to have a a winner back, I think, and this would be some way to mark his comeback.
For sure, yeah. He had a fall at Musselburgh back in June of last year, fractured his humerus, collarbone, significant damage to the whole shoulder joint. So it's been a long road back for him as well. To be honest, at the end of January, I didn't think Joe would make it. I think if it wasn't for Subjectivist, that's been the carrot throughout his rehab for him to try and get back. He had his first ride back on the racecourse on Friday of last week. He's had 5 rides. We just tried to get a few rides for him over the weekend just to get some match practice. So as you say, he hasn't ridden a winner since June of last year, but that doesn't concern me in the slightest. I would have more confidence in Joe riding this horse than anyone else. He knows him very well. He knows what his strengths are and how best to utilize them. So I'm relieved that he's back in time to ride him.
And you've got the injury to factor in and the rehabilitation, but this horse has gone well off a layoff before. Does that give you encouragement for Saturday?
Once, as we learned more about him from the end of his 3-year-old career into his 4-year-old year, we were learning that we feel he is best fresh. And hence we'd sort of started to work on a campaign that would only have involved 5 runs a year going forward. The sort of 2, 3, 4 month gaps that we felt were good for him. 20 months is a whole different kettle of fish. So I think albeit we know the horse can go well fresh, this is a different question we're asking him.
All going well Saturday. You obviously do your planning quite methodically. What is the sort of campaign we could expect to see from him?
Yeah, I've tried not to allow myself to think too much about Saturday. Never mind beyond that. It's a lot to ask to think that we could have this horse back at the same level that he was 2 years ago. Horses like him, there aren't a huge number of options for them, but prior to injury, the obvious 5 races a year for him were here: Dubai, Ascot, Goodwood, and then the Pre-Royal Oak. So those were the sort of 5 marquee races a year that would be on his radar. But see, there's a 4-week gap between here and Dubai, which is tight enough for any horse at this level, given the injury he's coming back from. That would be another factor we'd have to consider. But we're thinking about Saturday and nothing else at the moment.
And the horse side, Charlie, January the 1st this year, your name became on the license solely. This must be a big opportunity for you to sell yourself, given the sort of global interest we've got here in Saudi.
Yeah, for sure. For those on the more local stage at home, they know that I've been heavily involved in the business for quite some time now. We've been through a transitional period for the last 2 or 3 years. Last year, running the horses under both our names together under a joint license, and then this year under my name solely. We sort of say to people, it's the same but different. How the yard is run at home is very much the same now as how it has been for the previous 2 or 3 years. But as you say, I am now the face of Johnston Racing, and to have a horse like him that could take us to all the big global meetings and be competitive at them, that's the kind of horse you need at any stage in your career. But to have him in year 1 would obviously be a huge help.
And also, you've been an integral part of the business. You helped develop it, but to have your name on the license, the old man set that the bar quite high as regards numbers over the next few years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just about 4,989 behind at the moment. So it's a phenomenal achievement of what him and Mum have done over the last 30 years, and I'm just very fortunate to be walking into the facilities, the staff, the horses, and the ownership group that they built.
Well, let's have to the floor. Any questions? Charlie, we'll get a microphone to Charlie at the back, please.
Hi, Charlie. A couple of questions. What did you make of stall 13? Any issues, or you think it'll be okay from there?
It certainly wouldn't have been my first choice, and only myself to blame because I picked it. But I can see an eventuality of how things can still work out okay from there. I would probably have rather been there than 1, We had Naya Road in the race last year who missed the break and got posted 3 wide, and that was game over pretty quickly. So we've learned from that that's one position you don't want to be in. Yeah, it's, you know, we don't tend to tie jockeys down to orders at the best of times, and as I say, Joe knows this horse better than anyone, so we know what plan A will be, but he won't be tied down to it. I'll leave him to play it as it comes.
Your family have obviously had amazing memories in racing. If he did win on Saturday, where would this rank?
Again, that's something I'm trying not to let myself think about, but yeah, I can't think of anything that would be comparable into, you know, we've been very lucky. Just last season we brought living legend back from a similar injury and a similar time off. He had 2.5 years off with a tendon injury and came back to win the Jockey Club at Newmarket, but you know, that's still a couple of grades lower than this. So to bring this horse back at this level off this layoff is yeah, a huge ask. And as I say, I'm trying not to let myself think about what winning might be like.
Well, just give you some encouragement. Charlie was looking before. I think Stay Foolish won last year from 11. Did you say? There's placed horses around as well from high numbers.
Yeah, and there's probably quite a few horses in the race that aren't proven like we are over the distance. So you can expect that there'll be a reasonable number of the field that won't want to be particularly aggressive early. As I say, it wouldn't have been my first choice of where to jump from, but it's what we've got, and we'll just have to make the best of the situation.
Any more for Charlie? Well, you've got Group 1 winner on your baseball card there. Hopefully you can put Red Sea Turf on the other side come Sunday morning.
Fingers crossed.
Charlie Johnston, many thanks.